first up, what I want to do is to be able to give our panelists the opportunity to talk a little bit about themselves and their companies and how their company and what they're doing is directly in line with today's topic. Cokey, I believe you're with us now. Just in case, I think we're having a little bit of technical issues with Cokey, so we're going to start with Loren, if that's okay with you. So we know that among other really exciting news, the FDA has granted orphan drug designation to P-BCMA-ALLO1 for the treatment of multiple myeloma. And Loren, I'd love to hear from you, talk to us about Poseida and its ongoing mission as it applies to our topic today.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to join you. Looking forward to the discussion today, Erin. So just a quick intro to Poseida. We're a clinical stage company focused on genetic medicines and allogeneic cell therapies. Our headquarters and our manufacturing facilities are co-located here in San Diego. And we've taken a little bit different approach than some of our colleagues elsewhere in the industry, and we've developed a toolkit of gene editing and gene insertion technologies, as well as some non-viral manufacturing techniques that drive both sides of our business. And one of the primary differentiators for us is that our technology preferentially edits earlier memory phenotypes, which yields a product that's really rich in T stem cell memory cells, which we think is going to be a differentiator in the clinic as we start to look at allogeneic cell therapies. So speaking of the clinic, we currently have 3 assets that are in the clinic right now. You mentioned P-BCMA-ALLO1. That's one of 2 assets that we are partnered with Roche in malignant heme. And we also have one more asset that's fully owned by Poseida that's exploring a number of different solid tumor targets. So that's kind of where we're at from Poseida's standpoint. Certainly looking forward to the dialogue today, sharing some of our experiences and looking forward to what we have to the potential that we see in the future as we go forward with allogeneic cell therapies.
Excellent, excellent. We're happy you're here, Loren. Thanks again. Okay, I believe we have Cokey on successfully, so I, of course, want to give him the opportunity to talk to us a little bit about Atara. Atara Bio is, of course, known for the world first approval in Europe for the allogeneic T-cell therapy of Allo. And so, Cokey, talk to us a little bit about Atara's work with allogeneic cell therapies.
Thank you. Very pleased to be a part of the panel. Atara Bio, our mission is really twofold. You mentioned this, and thank you for teeing that up. The first is to bring our allogeneic cell therapy, tabelecleucel, to an approval in the U.S. as it's been approved in the EMA for Europe. Next is to then build upon this with our early stage portfolio of allogeneic CAR T programs. Tab-cel is the first allogeneic T-cell therapy approved in the world, has an outstanding efficacy and safety profile in over 500 patients to date. It's one of those indications where patients can succumb and die within 30 to 45 days. So we're really excited about getting this to the finish line in the U.S. Along with that, we've built a therapy that can be dosed within 3 days at the commercial GMP scale. And we feel like there's a lot of lessons there that help us as we pivot to becoming an allogeneic CAR T company. You take the therapeutic index of this platform, we're now turning it to the unmet need as we see it in oncology as well as autoimmunity. Like Loren has mentioned, we have 2 INDs for our first EBV CAR T program, ATA3219, which is an off-the-shelf CD19 CAR T program. And as pioneers in this growing field, we appreciate the need to share our knowledge on regulatory affairs and CMC so we can all get more of these therapies to patients. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Glad you brought up CMC and regulatory. We will get to that in just a little bit. Before we do, one of the nice things that we do at our Cell and Gene Live events prior to them is the registrants can submit some questions and concerns that they're looking to learn more about given the topic. And so, Cokey, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about, tell us maybe 2 or 3 potential trends that speak to the future of allogeneic cell therapies for oncology that you're seeing.
Thank you for the question. The first thing I think is one of the elephants in the room is regulatory success. I think cell therapy is new for the agency. We believe that we can be approved in the short term, and this would obviously be in partnership with the FDA, who are increasingly getting involved, helping companies achieve regulatory success. We think that's important to really educate the field, help educate our reviewers at the agency. We think that's one of the first trends that you're going to see. The agency is getting very aggressive in the space. And I think the second thing that we're going to see is, as autologous CAR Ts have shown efficacy, we really think initial efficacy in malignancies that you're seeing with allogeneic cell therapies, someone's going to figure out how to show durable responses with the right platform, the right treatment regimen. And I think this is really going to ignite our field.
Great. Okay, thank you. Loren, I'd like to give you the floor too to talk a little bit about some of the potential trends that, like we said, speak to the future of allogeneic cell therapies from Poseida's point of view.
Yeah, maybe just a couple of points to build on what Cokey brought up, especially on the regulatory side. I think anyone who has been to any of the recent conferences surrounding cell therapies and gene therapies has probably heard from the agency. Dr. Peter Marks has been there a number of times talking about the agency's willingness to engage, right? And when we start talking about accelerating, it's one thing to do it on the industry side, but we also have to recognize our regulatory partners and the responsibility of the agency, and they really have a willingness to engage. There's a lot of new guidances that have come out, and they're certainly helpful, but they can't encompass every situation for every company. So one of the things that they've really talked about doing is making more use of the Type D meetings. And I think that's something that you're going to see more of us in the industry make use of, to ask questions that are unique to each of our platforms and the technologies that are associated with it, and to answer the questions that fall between the cracks of the guidances that have been provided. So I think it's a super important tool. I think everyone should make use of it to the best of their ability, and just don't be shy about it. It's one of those things where the sooner you get an answer, the sooner you have clarity, and you won't, run in circles chasing yourself about, is this a regulatory risk or not? Just ask the question. And then I think secondly, going back to the efficacy question that Cokey brought up, I think you're going to see two things from the allogeneic standpoint. Number one, I think there's definitely a trend towards better efficacy and better durability that's coming. As Cokey mentioned, that nut is about to be cracked, I'm sure, one way or another. But at the same time, I think we're also needing to take into account the fact that allogeneic therapies are superior in terms of their ability to meet an intent to treat population. So I'm sure we're all familiar with different clinical flow charts and seeing the number of patients that were enrolled, the number that actually got dosed. And that's where you're going to see a lot of dramatic differences between allogeneic and autologous therapies, is that you're going to see intent to treat populations close to 100%, whereas with the autologous therapies, you have the challenges of the bridging therapies and the delay in getting the product back to the patients. It's just a more challenging field on the autologous side. So I think once you start to look at the numbers and you take intent to treat into consideration, the allogeneic field is going to become a lot more competitive a lot more quickly than people anticipate.